Gonna go to the next slide already. Nicole's not going to be here, but the lovely Megan Wheeler is here. She's from Case Faculty Affairs, and I'm Deneen Lancaster. I'm with CCLCM Faculty Affairs. So the topics we're going to go over today are why you should promote yourself, different faculty tracks and ranks, the difference between a new appointment and a promotion, moving between the two tracks we have. So at Cleveland Clinic, CCLCM, we call it the regular and clinical track, but at Case, they call it full-time and part-time. And then if you happen to be someone who needs to transfer because you used to be at a Case affiliate, I'm going to have a slide on that as well. All right, so here we go. Why pursue a faculty appointment? I think it's to promote yourself for all you're doing already. I think it's good when people's staff title matches their faculty rank. You're better positioned to get grants. You can be involved in academic medicine, and then you can also be involved in governance over at Case. There's numerous committees, and you can be a faculty council rep. One of our faculty members is actually the vice chair of faculty over there, Dr. Kaboo. So there's many ways you can get involved if that interests you. So the benefits for faculty, you get a Case ID, you get a Case email and address, email address and EDU and network access. You can use their gym if you're in the Cleveland area. You get discounts at their bookstore. You can have access to Case Library. Now, this is really only for people in Northeast Ohio, but they do have some different journals in their library compared to what we have here at Cleveland Clinic. So that is a big benefit. And then, of course, you can network with your fellow faculty members, maybe, network with them and maybe do a research project together or something like that. So all our appointments here at CCLCM are non-tenured. So per Case policy, you must be equal to or greater than 0.5 FTEs with Cleveland Clinic for you to apply in the regular track. And we encourage anybody who's able to apply in the regular track to do so. It is more prestigious than the clinical track. It is harder to promote in that track, but I believe it's worth it. So then we also have the clinical adjunct track. This is for people who are 0.5 or less than 0.5 FTEs with the Cleveland Clinic. They can apply in this part-time track. Now, there are some people who are full-time with Cleveland Clinic, but do not want to be in the regular track because they aren't focused on academic medicine. So they may choose to be in the clinical track as well. But if you work on a part-time basis, less than 0.5 at Cleveland Clinic, you must stay in the clinical track. All right, we have this great website. It's called the Appointment Requirements. It's our comparison tool. So all tracks are listed on this comparison tool, the regular track and the clinical track. Now, I know this slide is hard to see because it's the type is so small, but what I want you to notice is the bottom blue corner on the left. That shows you how those first appointments listed at the top in the clinical track and assistant professor in the regular track are pretty much easy to get. So they're not as hard to get as a regular track. Now, you still need a reputation for a clinical associate professor and clinical professor, but you don't need as much in your application to apply for it. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, the 3 columns, associate professor, professor, and a promotion to either one of those require a lot of items in the application. It's a lot to put together. So when people say, well, the clinical track is easier, I'd rather just apply for that, you have to understand you can, but it's less prestigious than the regular track. So I'm going to explain the difference in promotions and new appointments. So promotions are when you're moving up in the same track. So the one doctor who was the first to log into this workshop, he said he's currently an assistant professor and he wants to move up to associate professor. That's a promotion. New appointments are when you're promoting, when you're getting an appointment for the first time, or you want to change tracks. So say you currently are a clinical assistant professor in the clinical track, and you decided the regular track is more for me, but I'm already more qualified than assistant professor. I'd like to apply for associate. Well, that would be a new appointment. So you still requires the same type of reputation, but because it's a new appointment, there's just a couple less things your application requires. Doesn't require that a promotion would require, but that's the difference. So promotions are when you promote in the same track, and new appointments are when you're moving to another track or getting an appointment for the first time. And we encourage you to apply for the rank you're qualified. Just because you've never applied before, but you've been working and submitting papers and lecturing for a long time, if you're already qualified for associate professor or professor, we encourage you to apply for one of those. You do not have to start at assistant professor. We also have temporary appointments. Now, these are for only people applying for a new appointment, so they have no appointment currently. We can get you a temporary appointment. So say you're applying for professor, a new appointment to professor, and you have no faculty appointment currently. We can go ahead and get you a temporary clinical professor. So you have some type of faculty appointment while you wait for your permanent appointment to get final approval, which can take a year or more. So you would email us at our faculty affairs mailbox, and you would say, I just started my application and I would like a temporary appointment because I want to teach, because I want to apply for a grant, or just because I would like an appointment while I apply for my permanent appointment. All right, so the regular track has these ranks. And the first one is instructor. That's for LRI, for certain ranks in LRI. And you'll know if you need to apply for instructor because you would have been informed that by your administrator in LRI. Everyone else would apply for an assistant professor, associate professor, or professor. Now, of course, it depends on what one you're qualified for. And we'll go over what the reputation that's needed for each one in a second. So as I mentioned previously, if you go in the regular full-time track, you're allowed to vote on case issues. So they could be voting on the bylaws. They could be voting, to change policy. You're allowed to vote on those issues. You can also be on committees. So they have about 16 standing committees you can be on and other ad hoc ones, and those are for people in the regular track. So for the clinical adjunct track, we have these ranks that you see listed here: instructor, assistant professor, associate professor, and professor. Now, when you're in the clinical part-time track, you cannot vote on many case issues. There's just like one or two things that might come up you could vote on, and you're not allowed to serve on most committees. There are a few at-large clinical people on faculty council, but otherwise you need to be in the regular track to really get involved with case issues. Oh, let me explain also the difference between clinical and adjunct. Clinical is for every academic department that Cleveland Clinic has, CCLCM has, except for biomedical engineering and molecular medicine. So if you're applying for professor of molecular medicine and you need a temporary appointment, we would get you an adjunct professor appointment as your temporary. Every other department is in the clinical track.
Janine, sorry to interrupt. Someone in the chat mentioned that the slides aren't moving for them.
Oh,
I'm
my.
seeing them move, but I'm not sure if other people are having the same issue.
Is anyone else not seeing them move?
I can see them move.
You can? Okay. All right. I'm sorry for the person that can't see it. Um, I I don't know what to say if most other people can see them. Thank you, Megan, though. Okay. So when you apply, oops, let me go back. You need a reputation for the ranks of associate professor and professor. You need a certain reputation. Assistant professor needs no reputation because it's entry level. But if you apply for associate professor and professor, you need a certain reputation, and you have to pick a primary area of excellence in which you have that reputation. So these are the three primary areas of excellence listed in blue here. We have professional service, clinical and administrative. We have education slash teaching, and we have research. So research is really for people who mostly are full-time researchers and have grants. So for a lot more information on these three areas of excellence, you're going to look at our application requirements that are on our website, and I'll give you the link to that later. What you're also going to need to pick for associate professor and a professor. Now, these are new appointments and promotions. You're going to have a secondary area of excellence. Now, rather than need a reputation, you need acceptable contributions. Now, this has to be a different area than what you picked as your primary. And again, you're going to look at the application requirements to see what these are. So you're basically going to look at your CV and you're going to think, what am I most known for? Where do I have the most impact? Is it professional service because I do my clinical work and I lecture on my clinical work, I write papers on my clinical work, I do administrative service, I'm on societies, editorial boards, committees for national societies, or say American Heart Association, you're on committees. If you're known for that, you're going to pick professional service. And about 90% of the people that apply pick professional service. The next area is education, teaching. That's if you're known for your education and teaching. So not all, but some of your papers, lectures, presentations, papers are about teaching, how to teach new residents, how to teach fellows, what is the best way to train medical students. You're known for teaching, and that's where your impact is. So about maybe 2% of the people pick that primary area of excellence every year. And the final area is research. About 8% of the people pick that. And again, it's mostly for the clinic, people that work in LRI or some other institutes where they were hired to basically do research most of the time. It's difficult if you were hired to see patients 80% of the day, a week, and you only do research 20% of the time, for you to have enough contributions to make research your biggest impact area. So here are the reputation requirements. So this is the impact you've had since your last appointment or promotion, or brand new, your new appointment, the impact you have. So for associate professor, in the two primary areas of professional service and education, you need a regional reputation. What's regional? Regional is outside of Northeast Ohio and the surrounding states. So you've spoken in Indiana, you've presented at Ohio State, you've been asked to go to the University of Pennsylvania to do grand rounds. That's a regional reputation. Or you can have emerging US national. So Sometimes it's hard to get a regional reputation if the society that is with your specialty doesn't have a lot of regional branches or committees. So sometimes it's easier to get an emerging national reputation. For research, you have to right away, for associate professor, have a national reputation. So research is harder because you need a stronger reputation and you need some grants. I've never seen anybody get approved for research as their primary area of excellence that didn't have like at least one R01 and some other strong grants. For professor, for professional service and education teaching, you're going to need a U.S. national reputation or a sustained U.S. national. Maybe you already had an emerging and now you're sustaining your U.S. national or enhancing it. For research, same thing. You need a sustained or enhanced U.S. reputation, or you could have an international reputation. So it's always a little more difficult if you pick your primary area of excellence as research. So for your CV, it needs to be in our new template. There is a brand new one out that came out at the end of 2024, and you will have to follow it exactly. If you are promoting and you were promoted a few years ago and you had it in one of the old templates, unfortunately, you can't use that anymore. You're going to have to move it to the new template. Make sure you annotate where necessary and don't use abbreviations. So your referees will be in your specialty, but the reviewers on the committees, the CAP and CAPT committees that I'll explain in a minute, when they're looking through your application, it could be somebody in dermatology reviewing your molecular medicine application. You can't use abbreviations or specialty jargon that somebody else may not understand. So annotate where necessary or put information in your personal statement as to why something was really important. Say you received an award, you need to explain why that award was so important, how many people they give it to every year, or how prestigious it is to receive it, because somebody outside your specialty may not understand how important that award would be. So don't leave anything out. If you were invited to speak at a grand rounds, a lot of times grand rounds includes you doing the grand rounds, but sometimes the next day or the same day it involves you lecturing to residents and fellows as well. That would be a second item to go on your CV. So we don't duplicate things on our CV, but if we've done more than one thing, we list it. So say that you created a new curriculum. You're going to put curriculum under the section for that. And then you've lectured on that curriculum. You're going to put the times you lectured in the sections for teaching activities or presentations. So make sure you get credit for everything you've done. Delete any sections that don't pertain to you, but do not add new sections. Try to find the best section you can to put everything you've done and be consistent. And if you've done one thing and you put it in a certain section, make sure everything else like that goes in that section. All right, personal statement. We have a template for the personal statement. It's very general, but it makes sure that you explain your primary area of excellence, secondary area of excellence, and then the final area. Even though the final area is not required to be noted by case in your application, it still is important. So even if you're not as strong in that area, it's still best to list what you have done and talk about it. So it should be understandable by a layperson, not have these abbreviations and jargons like I mentioned about your CV. You are allowed 3 pages now. That's a change. New appointments were allowed only 2 pages up until the end of last year, but now everybody can have 3 pages, which is great. Because that's your way to really spell out in plain English exactly how you've achieved the reputation that's required and explain your impact. Don't just say, I got picked for a committee because they only pick people that have done a lot. Explain exactly. Like they picked me because I wrote this paper that's had such a high impact. And because I started this new program, that's why they chose me. That's why this is prestigious. I'm on this committee. Something to that effect. All right, you're gonna request a chair nomination letter inside your application. So you're gonna click it. Your chair is gonna be sent instructions. You're gonna pick a chair that knows you best. They should really be in your department. If you're applying in pathology, you really shouldn't have picked somebody in molecular medicine to write your nomination letter. They should be in your same department. This is something new that just started about a month or two ago. We ask that you meet with your chair or at least get your chair's approval for applying for this new appointment or promotion. This is something new. It's really explained in the application requirements. Your chair is going to have instructions in the email when you request your letter. The email is going to go to them. A copy of that email is going to go to you, and you're going to see what we asked your chair to write about, and you're going to see that we asked you to meet with them. Because, your chair is writing this nomination letter, and they are supporting you, and they need to talk with you in advance. Unless they tell you they don't want to, that's fine. Maybe you just met with them about your APR, and you've already discussed everything. There's a way for them to approve you without a meeting. But when they write this letter, they want to know exactly what you've done. You're going to want to fill them in. And they're also obliged to give you 6 external referee names. So that's a good time to get those names from them as well at that time. All right. Senior new appointment applications material. So we call senior associate professor and professor. And a new appointment to those require the materials that you see on the screen here. So a CV in our mandatory template, chair nomination letter, our personal statement. You're going to need to upload 3 to 5 publications. If you're a new appointment, they can be any publications that had a good impact or that you were first or senior author or that you're especially proud of. You need to have at least 3. You're going to upload teaching evaluations and summary if your primary area of excellence is education. If it's not, that's optional. You're going to upload an education or portfolio if your primary area of excellence is teaching. If not, it's optional. Sometimes for a secondary area of excellence in education, it's not a bad idea to upload a short teaching portfolio. And then you're going to put in the referee names. So you're going to need 14 external referee names. 6 will come from your chair, but they're going to give them to you. You're going to type them in. You need 5 colleagues, and 8 trainee names. So I've had people say, I'm ready to apply for associate professor, but they only have 3 trainee names on their CV that they've mentored. You have to have 8 people to be able to apply for associate professor or professor because you need to list them and we're going to request letters from them. Now, we have you put in extra names and you'll see how many names in your application requirements, but we don't need all those to move your application forward. We ask for 14 external names, but we just need 6 letters. We ask for 5 colleague, we only need 2 letters to be received. And we ask for 8 trainee names, but we only need 4 letters to be received to move your application forward. So for this new appointment, senior new appointment, associate professor, professor, you can see here on the screen that my department's going to review your application. And once everything's good, if we see that you uploaded a 5-page personal statement, we're going to let you know, hey, it's going to cut off at 3 pages. You better shorten it. Or if we see you put in an external referee and they're from Cleveland Clinic. Now, anybody from our family here at Cleveland Clinic in Case and Northeast Ohio cannot be an external referee. So we're going to ask you to put in another name, and we're going to inactivate that person. So things like that. We're going to thoroughly review your application. And then once we get enough letters, our CAP committee, Committee on Appointments and Promotions, our volunteer professors will review your application and decide if they approve or not. If they approve, we will let you know that it's going to be sent over to CWRU. We'll ask you for an updated CV. We're going to send it over there. Megan's department is going to review it. Then they're going to send it to their CAPT committee. They take care of tenure at CASE. We don't have tenure, but their committee is called CAPT because it's a committee on appointments and promotions and tenure. So if CAPT approves you, which, happens in about 98% of the cases, then they're going to move your application over to the dean of school of medicine, the provost, the president, and finally to the board of trustees. So the board of trustees votes year-round every month on new appointment applications. And just to let you know, you can submit at any time as well. New appointments have, you can submit anytime. So your new appointment could become effective any time that it gets to the board of trustees and they approve it. All right, now we're going to talk about senior promotion. So again, senior means associate professor and professor. There's a little extra that's included. You have to fill out a declaration of candidacy, and you're going to put your primary area of excellence and secondary area of excellence on it. You're going to do your CV again, your nomination letter, personal statements, publications, teaching evaluations, and summary are required. If you don't have any, the application requirements do tell you how we will handle that, but everybody should try to get some, and those are required. Even if your primary area isn't teaching, it doesn't matter, it's still required. Education portfolio is only mandatory if education's your primary, and then you're still going to put in the same amount of external colleague and trainee names for referees. All right, so senior promotion timeline's a little different. One, you can submit your application anytime. We do them on a rolling basis year-round here at CCLCM. You submit your application when you're ready. We will review it in the order received, like we do all applications. Once we have all the letters, we'll have our CAP committee vote on it, and then we send it to CASE as soon as it's ready. Now, once it gets to CASE, they take care of promotions. Since they're only reviewed twice a year at CASE, they take care of those at a certain timeline over there, but we get them to them whenever they're ready. So it'll go to CAPT, the same as new appointments. It'll go to the dean, the provost, the president, and the board of trustees, but the board of trustees will only approve them twice a year for a promotion. And that's they'll approve sometime in May or June, and the promotion will become effective July 1. And they'll also look at promotions in November, December, and those become effective January 1. Now people ask me to time it. I want to get you my application in time to get promoted July 1 of 2026. That's too difficult to do. So we ask people not to expect that, because we never know how long your application is going to take in the different areas. So say that you didn't do your CV in our template and now it's delayed, or your personal statement, you made it too long and you don't send it back to us for a few months. That's going to delay things. Maybe we don't get your letters right away and we need to ask you to put more external names in. That does happen. That's going to delay it. So we don't like to predict that. Once it gets over to CASE, they will line it up in their CAP meetings whenever they can, and they try to get promotions in time for the next cycle. But you never know. Maybe you go to CAP and you're one of the few that receive a not in favor vote, and we need to do an appeal. That will delay it. So it's too hard to time it. What we suggest is you apply when you're ready, when you have that reputation, and then we let the application go along just like normal. We send it to Case when it's ready, and the next time a cycle for promotions is ready over there, you'll be included if you're approved. All right. So I'm going to send everybody this slide because these blue underlines are links you can go to, but you can go to our webpage and there's 4 steps to apply. Have to choose your rank. You have to log in and start your application. You have to upload everything, and then you have to hit submit. If you don't hit submit, we'll never look at it. Happens a couple times every year where somebody emails and says, I was done with my application in December of 2024 and I've never heard from you. And I go and I look and I see they never hit the submit button. So until it's submitted, we don't look at it. So I kind of explained it already, but we will review your application when we receive it. But to avoid delays, please read the application requirements really, really carefully. That results in the most delays because people do not read. And I know the application requirements are kind of long, but almost every question you may have will be answered in them if you read it. So putting in the correct documents, and the really difficult for a lot of people, well, first of all, is putting your CV in our template. People find that difficult. But more than that, even, is picking external referees. So you need to read the requirements really carefully. Pick referees that you don't know well or don't know at all. They will write. It's a professional courtesy for professors to write letters. And someday when you become a professor, you'll be obliged to do it as well. So it is okay to put people that you don't know. They actually write the best letters because, we don't have to determine if they really are arm's length. They are because you didn't know them. So once we have all your documents all set up and the referees are good, we'll start emailing your referees. You can look in your application and see if any letters have been received. We can never tell you who wrote them, but you can see how many we have. The other thing is, please don't talk to your referees if they ever email you and say, hey, I sent my letter today. You're not allowed to discuss your application with them. And it also doesn't help for you to email us and say, I was told somebody uploaded a letter. How come I don't see that I got another letter in? We can't share that information with you. Sometimes people will pick the wrong referee and it slips through the cracks with us. Maybe they'll pick somebody that's just an assistant professor or doesn't have a faculty appointment, and we can't use the letter. Sometimes we can use it as a colleague instead, but a lot of times we just can't use it. So trust us that we're doing the best we can to make sure that every letter you receive is used, but there are times where we're not able to. So I mentioned earlier, the only people who can ever transfer are people that are at CCLCM, case location currently. So if you're at Metro UH or the VA and you transfer from there over to the clinic, you need to transfer your case appointment to CCLCM of case. And there are instructions on our website. This is a list I will send to everybody. It's got links to all the resources on our website. And I'm done. So I'm going to stop sharing and I will answer any questions we have. And then Megan's got a PowerPoint and she's going to go over her information. So does anybody just have a question? They just want to raise your hand. And you are being recorded, but feel free. Oh, Dr. Burkett. Hi.
Hi. So I have sort of a twofold question. Number one, I am in the South submarket, which puts me in like Akron, which means that I teach no learner students, zero. And I am a neomed grad, and all of my medical students are neomed students and Ohio Heritage students. So I technically currently have a clinical faculty appointment at two medical schools because I have my learner from when I was at Hillcrest and now at Neomed. What do you guys recommend for those of us in that scenario?
Okay, so you have to decide, or you don't. You can keep two clinical appointments like you have. But normally I tell people decide where you want your primary affiliation to be. If you want your primary affiliation to be Neomed, then you can never get a regular track full-time appointment with CCLCM of CWRU. So you would have to stay in the clinical track or adjunct, whatever department you're in. So I'll give you so say you say no, even though I teach some neomed students, I feel more of an affiliation with Case Western. I want to do something for Case. I want to be on committees, or you have to serve them somehow, or to have a faculty appointment. So I want to serve them in other ways, but I want them to be my primary appointment. That's fine. You just have to make sure that your neomed is a part-time clinical. And then when you apply with us, you're going to complete your new appointment in the regular track, and simultaneously, you're going to complete an outside external application. And when we send your regular track packet over to Case, we're going to send this clinical outside appointment packet as well. And it's going to be up to Dean Gerson at Case to decide if he will approve that clinical one. So I'll say it another way. If you want primary with us, you can only ever have clinical with someone else, and they always have to be approved by Case. If Case says no, we won't approve that Neomed, then you would have to have a decision then, what am I going to do? Do I drop the Neomed, or do I not apply in the regular track at CCLCM? So we have people in Florida like that. They're down in Florida, they're doing some things, and they're really qualified for regular track. I mean, one gentleman had a 150-page CV, and everybody was like, well, why is he applying for a clinical professor? And the reason was he had a full-time appointment with the university in Florida. And because he was down there, he felt more of a primary affiliation with them. Now, not everybody feels that way in Florida, but he did. And so he only applied in the clinical track with us. So you can never have two primary full-time appointments with different universities. Case does not allow that. Did that
Perfect.
answer your question?
That does, because
Okay.
I mean, I'm their OBGYN interest group faculty advisor, and I have like 5 of them that are doing research with me right now. So,
So
and
yeah, if you want to keep them primary, you would stay in the clinical track with us then.
then who's the best person to talk to about putting weird stuff on your CV? Like if have been like perhaps giving legislative testimony and those kinds of things and where that fits.
I usually like to, first of all, you can always email us at Faculty Affairs CCLCM at ccf.org. That's our main mailbox, and me and my 2 coworkers answer it. But
Okay.
the other thing I would say is for our mandatory template, I usually tell people to put it under committee professional service. So even though it's not technically a committee, it's the best place I've found to fit it on the CV without, because you're not allowed to add new sections. So I would put that it was a committee on legislation for blank, and then put like how often you meet, or if you were a member or the chair of it, and annotate if you need to. And say you're on a different one where you're helping develop test questions and you're working on legislation. Those would be 2 separate entries on our new template version. And they would go under whatever the society is, or whatever the group is, you would put it under there.
Okay. I actually literally gave legislative testimony in that House and Senate at the state house.
I
So
would put it there. Megan, do you know of anywhere else? Because there really is. I mean, I guess you could put it under other presentation.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I have a little bit of a weird niche. I do legislative and advocacy work and research.
see, it's wherever you put it, it's important that you put it there every time.
Okay. So
So
that
don't,
kind of
don't,
collects it. Okay.
yeah, don't put it under lectures once and committee and professional service other time. Megan, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say the presentation was the only other thing I could necessarily think of.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. But
That's
be
helpful.
consistent. So you don't want people reviewing it and going, oh, I saw legislation testimony here, and then I saw it over here, and then I saw it here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, we're gonna have Megan share, and she's gonna share easily, I know it. All right,
I
Megan,
know
it's
about
all
that.
you.
All right, I will go ahead. There's a good chance I'll have technical difficulties as well. I'll be
Well,
honest.
I'm gonna try to never forget that thing up there on when you're sharing that thing that we were told, the display settings. I gotta write that down, display settings. All right, I'm gonna mute right now. Megan, you go for it.
Are
I
they
see yours more like what you saw of mine. I
okay? So you're
see
seeing
the next
I see.
slide. Yeah.
Let me get that fixed. All right. Is that
Oh,
working?
it's beautiful.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to cover a lot of similar things to Deneen, just kind of from the School of Medicine's perspective. So I'll try to go through it relatively quickly. My name is Megan, as Deneen mentioned. I'm the manager of faculty affairs at the School of Medicine. And just wanted to give you kind of an overview of our office. This is specifically our faculty affairs group. We have some faculty development individuals, but this is the team that would be most focused on appointment and promotion. We have Nicole Deming, who's our assistant dean. Lila Robinson is the assistant director. She manages the School of Medicine CAPT, as well as like faculty governance, things committees and things like that. Myself, and then Joyce Helton is our department administrator, and we have two coordinators, Katie and Audra. Katie works with the FIS, which is our faculty information system. That's her primary area. And then Audra does a lot of reviewing of appointments and promotions as we get them and communicates a lot with Deneen and her team about any questions we might have. We also have a general email inbox, which is facaffairs@case.edu. You can always send questions there if you don't know who to specifically direct it to. But Deneen and her team are also a great resource. They know a lot and do a lot, so we're very thankful for them.
Megan, I would just interject that everybody should come through my office first at CCLCM, and then we will ask that Megan's office if we're not sure, then we'll give you the correct answer and we'll know it for next time.
Perfect. Yes, that's always good to include Deneen or direct things to Deneen and her team. Um, so as mentioned, there are five academic ranks in the School of Medicine. Instructor, senior instructor, and assistant professor are the junior level ranks, and then associate professor and professor are senior level. Any of these can be full-time or part-time, but I'm focusing mostly on promotion to associate professor and professor in these slides. When we are reviewing an appointment or promotion, we're really looking for demonstrated knowledge in your academic field and a commitment to continuing development of that competence, a dedication to effective teaching, commitment to a continuing program of research or other advanced creative activity, professional service activities, and a willingness to assume a fair share of university and administrative service tasks. These are pulled directly from our faculty handbook. Always a great resource to review if you're trying to kind of understand the university's expectations of you. To give you a very, very brief promotion timeline from our perspective at the School of Medicine, we have a deadline from the provost to submit things for a January or July effective date. because the clinic does a lot of the heavy lifting, asking for external referee letters, colleague referee letters, all of that, their timeline from us is different than our timeline for a faculty member based at the School of Medicine, for example, where we are the ones requesting letters. So in general, we ask for a complete packet from the clinic by June for a January approval date. We would want a complete packet by October for a July approval date the following year. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know these are long periods of time. There's just a lot of people that have to review even after we've gone through the process of getting a complete packet. We are evaluating packets based on 3 areas of excellence. Those are research, education, and professional service. Professional service includes both administrative and clinical service. We do ask that you identify a primary area and then provide evidence of acceptable contributions in one or more of the other areas. This should be clear in your packet just to really guide the review committees of how they should be evaluating your contributions. If your major strength is in education or clinical service, as Deneen mentioned, there should be a demonstrated level of recognition at a regional level for associate professor and national recognition for professor. And faculty who identify education as a primary area of excellence are required to submit a teaching portfolio. Again, we would happily accept a teaching portfolio from anyone going up for promotion or appointment, but you have to submit one if your primary area is education. And in those portfolios, we're looking for philosophy of teaching, a teaching inventory, teaching contributions, evaluations, and awards. And we would like it to be, or it needs to be no more than 25 pages. For clinical excellence, we are looking for participation in professional societies, particularly in leadership positions, invitations to present at academic medical centers on clinical expertise, and development of new practice methods and recognition. And then research is a little bit different than the other 2. It can be, you can sort of demonstrate research accomplishments either in an individual or a team science setting. If you do choose to demonstrate your excellence in a team achievement, it should be clear why you specifically are essential to this team. And then for promotion to associate professor, a national level of recognition is required. And for professor, there should be a sustained level of excellence and enhanced recognition. As Deneen mentioned, the CV is very important. I know it can be a daunting task to get it into the template, but it is really important for our review committees. It helps them evaluate everyone on the same level, and they are able to find things so much more efficiently when things are in that required template. So it's a worthwhile endeavor, and we really encourage you to update your CV regularly, even if you aren't going up for promotion right now. So just something to keep in mind. The template is also available on our website, but I think Deneen has a clinic specific version, which is definitely go with that one. It's adapted from our required template. We have a few kind of just tips that we find really helpful and that have helped people in the past when going up for promotion or just making the most of their faculty appointment. It's really important to find mentors and network with your colleagues, which seems kind of obvious, but it's always good to remember the people in your department, the people in the schools around you are really essential resources. And then making sure that you're using your annual review or your APR to your benefit and really using it to enhance your chance at promotion, kind of figure out where you need to work on something, where you're doing really well that you should highlight, and really work on setting the agenda of that APR and addressing your concerns or thoughts and feelings regarding promotion there. We really encourage you to get known by other colleagues at other institutions or professional organizations. We encourage you to present papers and review for journals, present visiting lectures, accept visiting appointments, and just really be involved in your field. Any professional activity beyond CWRU is really worth it when it comes to this sort of promotion review process. Going back to the CV a little bit, it's really important that you document your teaching. This is often not just like in a clinical department, but it's often the weakest part of a packet, just because, not because people aren't doing it, but because they're not tracking it. So we really, really encourage you to regularly update your CV with your teaching responsibilities, anything that you've been working on. And then teaching evaluations and a teaching summary are expected for all promotion packets. The evaluation summary will be from the department, but just something to keep in mind when you're compiling your packet. Service contributions are very important, but also very important to sort of think about very carefully before you accept any assignment. Service can mean a lot of different things. We are looking at service on committees, administrative contributions, contributions to the university or hospital welfare, professional memberships and activities, research review committees, editorial boards, community health efforts, educational and professional society committees, and leadership in community health organizations. Service is a very broad concept, and we really encourage you to just kind of take part. And finally, scholarship is a very key aspect of your promotion. We need to know how you're communicating your work to other people. We want to understand your impact in your community and in your field. And again, this is a very broad concept. There's not one single way to define scholarship, but the key aspects to emphasize are evidence-based research and teaching, peer review, hypothesis-driven research. Just important to know that scholarship can look like a lot of different things. And then finally, we really encourage you to find a role that is specific to you, that makes you essential, and we want you to be recognized for all the work that you're doing at the clinic, at CASE, in your community. So yeah, we just really encourage you to do the work to get promoted and be recognized for your achievements. That's all I have. I don't know if anyone has questions or.
That was great, Megan. Yeah, any questions, anybody? You know, people think that maybe only 50% of applications gets approved or something. I've had somebody, it's extremely high. It's in the high 90s.
Yes. And I would say,
Yeah.
even if there is like an issue, it's not necessarily a reflection on you. It's just like we need additional information. And I think it's important to like look at it that way, that we just have questions.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're ever wondering if you're ready, we suggest you talk to your chair. If you're still unsure, you can send your CV in our template to our Faculty Affairs CCLCM at ccf.org email address, and we will have our Associate Dean, Dr. Jean Barnett, review it. We'll review it as well, and we'll give you suggestions. I think a lot of the applications are almost slam dunks. People are really ready. People that are more on the line, we either tell them it's best if you got a few more things or waited a little bit. You can always still make your own decision. Whatever the candidate chooses, we will comply with. But we can't guarantee what we've told you because it's an art, not a science. Unfortunately, there's no check boxes. You need 12 papers or, this many grants. There's nothing like that. So it's just an overall reputation, your impact on your field. Any questions? No questions, really. We can either go early or I could share our website to show you where to find things. if anybody's interested. We will have another workshop like this in October. And then there are recordings of some on our website if you want to view. I don't have any from last year, but I have 2023 on there, and I will be putting this one on. It'll take me like a week or so to get my IT to do what they need to do, and then I'll get digital content to upload it.
Hi, this is Dr. Ishai again. Thank you so much for the information. This is quite,
Yes.
and I don't know, but I feel like probably I should, looking at all this and all that is required, having worked 35 years in clinical nephrology, I'm not sure that I could be candidate for this. It seems like, a lot more is required than just being a clinical nephrologist and teaching fellows or students, but not having a lot of publications. So it has kind of make me think that am I the right person for it? And especially in this late in my career when I have maybe 5 or 10 more years, 5 at the most, I would say. Is it, and this is me just thinking aloud and asking help from you guys as to what you think, whether I should say, I can wash my hands, I probably will not be a clinical associate professor, or it's worth a try. Because the concept of external referees that don't know you, what are they going to write about you if they don't know you? That has always puzzled me because somebody else.
They're going to look at your CV and your personal statement, and they're going to go, "Oh, I heard him lecture at a presentation once for the Society of Internal Medicine, and I remember looking at his paper once because I had a patient that, wasn't able to, had some disease, and I remember his paper had good information in it, or, something to that effect."
I see. And if they have never heard you talk or give a lecture, then they will not have anything to contribute, right?
Well, the people that agree to write
Yeah.
always have something to say. I
Uh,
mean, sometimes they don't even know them and they write 4 pages.
okay.
They're like, wow, oh, I didn't realize that they wrote, you know, about this procedure. That's actually the procedure I started doing. I didn't realize that they're the ones that wrote that or something like that. And they end up, it always ends up okay. So when you said you don't know if you should apply or not, so the clinical track is more for people who have kind of worked in-house, I'll say. So they've done a lot, but it's more at the clinic. And they haven't really wrote papers about it or lectured about it or presented about it. It probably will be difficult in the regular track then for associate professor or professor. It doesn't mean you haven't done great work, but picture case. I always picture it this way, Megan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll have already said it. They want to promote people that promote them. So if you go to case and say, I want a promotion or a new appointment, and they say, well, how have you made us look good? How have you made your field look good, your specialty? And you go, well, nothing, but I took care of all these patients. Well, that's important, but it didn't grow your specialty or have an impact. So they're going to say, it's wonderful everything you did, but we're past, we're giving these ranks to people who have expanded their specialty for the whole world to see.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it
Megan,
does.
was that terrible or okay?
No, I think that makes sense. It's just a matter of like what aspect of your field you're working the most in, I guess. I don't know if that
So you don't
even
like
makes sense,
Yeah.
but
So there are some, Dr. Barnett always likes to say before I got hired, there was a lady who became a professor and she only had 3 publications.
oh,
So that's like crazy, right? But she was president of her national society.
Okay.
And she served on all these committees. And if you wanted to know about blank, you were going to her. So there was no question that she had a national, international impact.
Mm.
She just went about it with professional service and teaching and not so much papers. Now, I will say that the committee things do go in cycles. Maybe now she wouldn't have got it. I don't know. But the thing that stands out is that, you know, if you're making a big enough impact that people are like, hey, we want you to talk to us because the program you started at the clinic for transplantation of pediatric AIDS patients is so profound that we want to start one of those at our location.
Mhm.
And they start asking you and you start doing all these things, you can get a reputation without having a ton of papers.
Right.
But papers never hurts. I'll say that. Papers can bolster other areas, but like primary professional service can't really bolster as much. That was something new I read, Megan. It shouldn't be new to me, but I read that you know, teaching and research are more the stalwarts of case more, and they can prop up um, you know, other areas, and professional service really can't do that. So, I mean, I think there's appointment for everybody, even if it's not in the regular track. There's still the clinical track where you could definitely maybe be qualified for, you know, in the clinical track, you need the same reputation. So for clinical professor, you still need a national reputation, but it doesn't have to be as high of a trajectory and as much as it does in the regular track. You know, the clinical track can be more like flat. It doesn't have to be an upward trajectory. It can be over a long period of time more, and it doesn't have to be um, quite as much. So if you think you're not qualified for the regular track, I would definitely look at the clinical track. It, you
Yeah.
know,
I was
there's a place for everybody.
Yeah. I wasn't looking at the regular at all. It was the clinical track. And I think, for example, if I go overseas and give lectures, I'm from Pakistan, so I go there and I give lectures because I'm invited for them. I don't know if that's part of the reputation or it's not, but things like that. So I guess it won't hurt to apply and then see what happens.
Well, you can always send us your CV if you're really, if you
Yeah.
want if you want the clinical track, your CV does not need to be in our template, but I would suggest you look at our template
Okay.
because all the categories are listed. If you've done anything in those categories, you're going to want to make sure they're on your CV. It might make you think, oh, well, I didn't know that's a big deal. I'm going to make sure I put that on my CV, even like for the clinical track in my own version. Um, it is important that you went over to Pakistan, but I will say that's a local. So anytime that you used to work or go to school or something in a certain area, that's always going to be local. So if you have somebody at main campus here and they go down to Cleveland Clinic, Florida to lecture, that's local. If
Got
they
it.
go to Abu Dhabi to Cleveland Clinic, that's local. If you go back to like your alma mater to
Yeah.
lecture, that's local. That's not an international lecture
Right.
because they're just calling you back. Now, if you go to Pakistan and it's not your university you went to and
Right.
it's something else, then that could potentially be international.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah.
that's what it was. Sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll keep.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, email our main email box if you have any questions, please.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? This is the time to ask. But if you don't, you can still email us, please. All right. Well, I appreciate you being here. Any questions? Again, email us. I'm gonna send everybody the PowerPoint. Megan, can I include your PowerPoint? Send it to me in
Yes,
case they
I will
don't have
send it to you.
Okay, thanks. So I'll send that to everybody. I'll send the mandatory CV template, personal statement template. I'll include the appointment application requirements for the clinical and the regular track, full and part-time. So you can look those over because they make great reading. If you ever wanna, maybe you can't fall asleep at night, they're perfect for that. But it's really great information though. We really, the people that follow the application requirements the closest, their applications usually move along much quicker because there's no delays because they followed it. So, all right, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Take care.